Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about why your wealth absolutely explodes after the first 100,000. And at the end of the video, we're also going to talk about what you can do to get your initial 100k together ASAP. In my opinion, the first 100k is both the most important and the hardest step in your wealth building journey. And it's where I see most people get stuck. The late great billionaire and Warren Buffett's right-hand man, Charlie Munger, once colorfully said, "The first $100,000 is a bitch, but you gotta do it. I don't care what you have to do. If it means walking everywhere and not eating anything that wasn't purchased with a coupon, find a way to get your hands on $100,000. After that, you can ease off the gas a little bit." What Charlie is saying here is that wealth accumulation is disproportionately harder at the beginning because of the lack of compound interest early on. The magic of compounding doesn't have much impact until you have a decent sized capital base and you give it some time. The reality is that you need at least 100k for your wealth to start compounding in a meaningful way. Think of wealth like a snowball rolling down a hill, getting bigger and bigger as it picks up more snow and momentum. This is all because of the incredible power of compounding. It's about earning returns on your investments and also earning returns on those returns. So over time, money makes a lot more money, and at a certain point it can grow your wealth exponentially. Now, the wealth snowball is a great analogy, but there's a crucial missing piece to it. And that is that we don't start on top of the hill with a good sized snowball that we can just let roll down the hill. In reality, we need to get that initial solid capital base together so that our money can then be put to work and make more money for us. In other words, you need to first go through the painful part of putting together an initial decent sized snowball and pushing it up the hill before you can get it rolling down the hill on the other side and growing without much input from you. This is the most challenging thing about wealth. It's so hard to make money when you don't have any money, so it takes money to make money. So the first 100k is the biggest point of friction in the wealth creation journey because it really all comes from your savings, as there's very little investment returns to help you at this stage when you have a small capital base. It's you who's doing most of the work, not your money or your investment returns. The first 100k is achieved through your ability to grind out those savings through focus, discipline, and sacrifice. This level of commitment is hard and it's not glamorous, but there's really no way around it. But once you've got that first 100k together, you can get your wealth snowball rolling, and over time, compound returns will do more and more of the work for you. Your wealth begins to grow on its own. So once you reach that 100k threshold, and if you continue to invest and reinvest your returns, your wealth will grow much easier and faster to a point where your wealth increases significantly without much effort from you at all. And once you get your first 100k, you will instantly start thinking about your first million. And it's easier to go from 100k to a million than it is to go from 0 to 100k, trust me. So let's dive into this in a little bit more detail so you can see how it works. If you invested $10,000 a year and earned 7% per year, and you reinvested your returns, it would take you just short of 8 years to get to your first 100k. It works out that about 80k or 80% of your wealth is from savings, and 20k or 20% of your wealth is from the investment returns. So it's a long, hard slog in this first milestone. But then look at what happens after that 100k mark. If you continue to invest 10k a year at a 7% return, it only takes you about 5 years to get to 200k, and only about 4 years after that to get to 300k. And if we skip ahead to a point where we have a nest egg of 900k, it only takes about 1.4 years to make another 100k to get to a net worth of $1 million. So each of your next 100k milestones comes quicker and easier than the last one, even though you're investing the same amount and getting the same return each year. This is because the money you have saved and invested previously is working for you. Using these assumptions, it would take you about 30 years to get to $1 million. An important point to make here is that the first 100k takes up about 25% of this time period, even though it's only 10% of the $1 million figure. So if you look at it in terms of time, your first 100k is actually 25% of the way to your first million. The takeaway from this is that you're far closer to your first million than you think. so just keep going. And you might very fairly be thinking, well, 30 years is still a really long time to make $1 million, which doesn't go that far these days. This is a fair point and it's true, but remember that this is only an example to demonstrate my point. In reality, you should be investing much more than $10,000 a year, which would significantly increase your returns and your wealth over time. Also, it's important to know that this example doesn't take into account anything like the fact that you could leverage your money to amplify your investment returns, or that as you get older and more experienced, your income will likely rise, or that you might meet someone lovely and have a double income. So the numbers for your investment returns and wealth will hopefully be much greater than I showed in this example. But there you have it, saving your first 100K is crucial for laying the foundation for your future wealth, because time really is money when it comes to compounding. You want to get that initial 100K together as soon as possible so that you can give yourself as long as possible in the wealth accumulation game. Ideally, you want to get this done in your 20s, but it's never too late. Trust me when I say that a few years of sacrifice can really pay off in the long term. You will just be amazed by the potential of compounding. It's quite unbelievable really, and it can make you a millionaire quite quickly. Just remember, building wealth is a gradual process and it can be frustratingly slow early on. I've only been investing for about 7 years myself, so a great lesson I like to remind myself of is that Warren Buffett has made 99.8% of his wealth after his 52nd birthday. Back then, the poor guy was only worth $376 million, but today, at 94 years old, he's worth about $168 billion. Now, it needs to obviously be acknowledged that Warren Buffett is one of the greatest investors who has ever lived and has a ridiculous average annual return of about 20%. But that said, the real key to his massive net worth lies in the fact that he's been constantly investing and reaping the incredible rewards of compound returns for over 7 decades. Most compound growth is realized in the later years after you've been investing for a few decades. If Buffett had retired in his 60s, many of us would have never heard of him. So every dollar you save and invest now cannot be underestimated, and it's crucial to your future financial success. At first, just focus on saving your first 100K, not on making millions of dollars. Too many people overwhelm themselves with these huge goals, and they just never get started because of it. If you keep investing and reinvesting the returns in a sensible way over the long term, your net worth will just take care of itself. So we've identified $100,000 as this nice inflection point which goes a long way to determining whether you will grow wealth or stay poor your entire life. But how do you actually go about saving that initial $100,000? Well, there are 4 main things you need to do. The first thing you can do is to go back to basics and minimize your expenses and your spending. This is one of the easiest things you can do to save your first $100,000. Live modestly, keep as much of your money as possible, and don't part with it easily. To help you with this, create a budget to track how much money you've got coming in and going out, and also to track exactly where your money's going. Have a look through a few months of transactions on your bank app and on your statements to help you figure this out. Then distinguish between your needs and your wants, and by that I mean your essential expenses versus your discretionary spending. You want to find ways to minimize your essential expenses, like renting a smaller place in a less desirable location, and you want to eliminate all discretionary spending that isn't adding any real value to your life. You will probably find that most of your discretionary spending doesn't make you happier or fulfilled. And avoid lifestyle creep. Save the extra money that you earn instead of spending it. Keep your expenses and spending the same, even though you're earning more. Every single dollar is so important in the beginning, and it can make a huge difference to your future financial outcomes. So don't feel like there's no point in saving and that you're not getting anywhere. Just stick with it and be patient. And remember, instant gratification is the enemy. This part of the journey is all about delayed gratification. The second thing you can do to save your first 100K is to maximize your income. So you can only lower your expenses so much, but the potential to increase your income is basically infinite. If you can supercharge your income, your ability to save increases dramatically. The problem is that if you're trying to save your first 100K, in most cases you're probably younger and you're early on in your career, so your earning power is at its lowest. You just don't have the experience under your belt to demand more money in the market. You haven't had a chance to play the game long enough. So to overcome this, you want to focus on building skills which allow you to work in as higher income job as possible, or build skills which will allow you to create an additional stream of income through creating a business or a side hustle. Increasing your income this way is much easier said than done, but according to ING, about 50% of Australians have a side hustle or are planning to start one, so it can be done. For example, the internet is a great way for younger people to make far more money than older generations because they know it much better, and they can leverage the infinite power of the internet to make money through an online side hustle. You can also look at switching jobs every couple of years. Employees who swap jobs generally see a pay increase of between 10 and 30%, whereas people who stay in the same position typically only get about a 2 to 4% raise each year. So loyalty is not necessarily rewarded in the job market. The third thing you need to do to get together your first 100K as soon as possible is to pay off your bad debts. You've got to tackle all your high interest rate bad debts like credit card debt and personal loans, where the interest rates are usually north of 20%. This is an absolute killer because it's compound interest working against you. If you have bad debt, pay it off as soon as possible. It's very hard to save money where you're paying huge amounts of interest charges on things that are losing value or which had no value to begin with. And the fourth thing you can do to get together that first 100K is to have good behaviors and habits when it comes to money. 100K takes sacrifice and commitment, something which most people aren't willing to do because they're impatient and they're more interested in the instant gratification side of the story. Most people just don't hit this goal because they don't have the discipline to stick with an aggressive saving plan. The fact is, Australians are notoriously bad savers. Over the past 25 years, Australians have, on average, only managed to save about 5% of their net disposable income. This is something known as the household saving rate, and at the end of 2023, the household saving rate was only at about 3%. If you want to get to this $100,000 target, you need to save a lot more than 5% of your disposable income. And if you're starting to feel overwhelmed, don't worry, the sacrifice isn't forever, it's only temporary. Taking the first step, as with many things in life, is the most difficult. So be patient and think about how your life will change once you've made it to that 100K goal. Imagine the skills and the knowledge and the discipline you would have gained and the person you would have become along the journey. If you can save 100K, you have what it takes to go on and turn this into your first million and much more. Or if you respond better to negative motivation, you could think of how much your life will suck if you never save that first $100,000. Just don't give up. Well, that'll do us for today, guys. Hopefully I've been able to show you that the rewards are well worth the hustle. You just need to see the bigger picture, think long term, and play the long game. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, and you might want to check out this video on the screen right now, all about 6 money habits that might be keeping you poor. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a good day.